Welcome back to another video on the Math channel. It's your teacher Mr. Lim here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the area of triangles. However, before we look at this, I want you to answer these three recap questions. So pause the video and have a go with question A, B, and C. Okay, so welcome back. I'm going to have a look at length first. So we've got kilometers, meters, centimeters, and millimeters. Clockwise direction. Top is times. Bottom is divide. And then we'll have a look at area. Area is exactly the same thing, except everything is squared. Clockwise direction. Top is times. Bottom is divide. Okay, question B. A rectangle has a length of 700 millimeters and a width of 50 centimeters. Find its area in square centimeters. So in order for us to find its area in square centimeters, both units need to be in centimeters. Well, this one already is, so we don't need to change it. But this one isn't, so we do need to change that one. So we need to work out 700 millimeters is equivalent to how many centimeters? Well, from millimeters to centimeters, we follow the arrow. We need to divide by 10. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 700 by 10 by moving the decimal to the left once. Gives me an answer of 70. Okay, so because we know that the area of a rectangle is length times width, and the length is 70 centimeters, and the width is 50 centimeters, we can now work out that the area is 3,500 square centimeters. Okay, and last one. A rectangle has an area of 2,800 square centimeters. Find its length in meters if its width is 400 millimeters. So let's draw this out. Okay, so we know the area is 2,800 square centimeters. We want to work out its length. I'll just call that L. And we know its width is 400 millimeters. So because we want the answer to be in square centimeters, these should both be centimeters. The length and width need to be in centimeters. So what I need to do is I need to convert that width of 400 millimeters into centimeters by dividing by 10. So I'm just going to replace this with 40 centimeters. So because we know that the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times width, and that the area is 2,800 square centimeters, what number times 40 will give us 2,800? Well, we do 2,800 divided by 40. Well, we can divide both of them by 10. And technically we got 280 divided by 4, which is 70. So the length is 70 centimeters. Alright, let's have a look at today's lesson on area of triangles. So by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to explain the connection between the area of a rectangle and a triangle, and find the area of a triangle. So let's have a look at the first one, the connection between the area of rectangles and triangles. What do you notice about the area of each of the following triangles in their rectangles? Well, if we have a look at the first one, here's our big rectangle. The triangle only takes up half of it. Okay. For the second one, we have a look at this small rectangle. we can see that this part of the triangle only takes up half of the rectangle. And if we look at this bigger rectangle, even though technically it's a square, this triangle only takes up half of that area. What that means is that the big triangle takes up only half the area of the big rectangle. Okay, so what do we notice? We notice that the area of the triangle is equal to half the area of the rectangle. So because we know that the area of a rectangle is length times width, so let me just write that as area of rectangle. The area of a triangle must be half of that, half of the length times width, except that we don't use length times width for our formula. We use pretty much the same thing, we just don't call it length and width. Instead, the area of any triangle can be found using the formula half times base times height. Half times base times the perpendicular height. So that word perpendicular, it just means the height that at a right angle. So it needs to form a right angle. So let's have a look at these two examples. Here in question A, we've got a triangle with a base of 10 and a perpendicular height. So this height, this is the perpendicular height of 9 centimeters. So if we had, for example, 11 centimeters here, this is not the height. Okay, it's not perpendicular to the base. It doesn't form a right angle with the base. Okay, neither does this side here. So we know that the formula of a triangle is half base times height. The base is 10, the height is 9. So what we could do is we could do 10 times 9, which is 90, and half of that is 45. Or sometimes I like to find the even number and halve the even number, so half of 10 is 5, and 5 times 9 is 45. Okay, so I find that useful if we have big numbers. In question B, the base is 6, and the perpendicular height, so if we were to do that, the perpendicular height, which is this, is 9. So area is equal to half times base times the perpendicular height, which in this case is 6 times 9. So you could use either method that I said before. I would do half of 6, which is 3, and 3 times 9 is 27. Or you can just do 6 times 9, 54, half of 54 is 27. It's up to you. I like to just halve the even number. If there are two even numbers, I like to halve the bigger even number. Okay. What I want you to do now is I want you to pause the video and have a go with this question. A farmer uses fencing to divide a triangular piece of land into two smaller triangles, as shown. What is the difference in the two areas? Okay, so you should have had a go with this. What I would do in order to work out the difference is I need to work out the area of the big triangle, okay, which I can do. Let's do that now. So the area of the big triangle is half times base times height. The base is 18 plus 26, which is 44. And the height is 40. So I might halve the 40 because that's easy to do. So we got 44 times 20, which is 880. So that's 880 square meters. Well, now that I've done that, I can work out the area of this right angle triangle. So the area of small triangle, half base times height, half times 18 times 40. Half of 40 is 20. 18 times 2 is 36, so I'm just going to add the 0. 360 square meters. Well, what that means is this has to be 360 square meters. Well, if the whole big triangle is 880, then how big is this? All we need to do is 880 and minus 360, which is 520. That means that this has to be 520 square meters. But the question asks us, what is the difference in the two areas? So what's the difference between this triangle here and this triangle here? All we need to do is do 520 minus 360, which is 160 square meters. So we can say, therefore, the difference in the two areas is 160 square meters. Okay. Let's have a look at some extension questions. I'm going to go through the first one with you, and then I'll get you to try B by yourselves. Okay, so the base of a triangle is 5 centimeters and its perpendicular height is 18 millimeters. What is its area in square centimeters? So whenever I'm given a word problem and I have to draw it out, if I have to draw a triangle, usually I'll just draw a right angle triangle. So the base is 5 centimeters and the perpendicular height is 80 millimeters. It doesn't matter that it's not to scale. That should be fine. So we want the area in square centimeters, which means I need to convert this into centimeters. So 80 millimeters is equal to how many centimeters? It's equal to 8. So I'm going to replace this with 8 centimeters. And therefore the area is equal to half times base times height. Half times 5 times 8. 5 times 8 is 40. Half of 40 is 20. And that's the area of the triangle. Okay, so I want you to pause the video, have a go with question B yourselves, and when you're ready to check it out, so continue playing the video. Okay, so here I'm just going to draw my triangle. The perpendicular height is 170 millimeters, base is 13 meters, and we want to work out the area in square centimeters. So what that means is I'm going to change this to centimeters, and I'm also going to change that to centimeters. So 170 millimeters is equal to how many centimeters? Divide by 10, so it's 17. 13 meters is equal to how many centimeters? Well, I need to times by 100. So I'm going to add 2 zeros. So the area of a triangle is half times base times perpendicular height, which is half times 1300 times 17. Now half of 1300 is 650. So 650 times 17, 0, 35, 42, 45. Add my 0, 0, 5, 6, and then I'm going to add them together, which is 0, 5, 10, 11, 11,050 square centimeters. Okay. I'm going to go through question C with you, and then I want you to pause the video and have a go with question D. So question C says the area of a triangle is 56 square meters. What is the length of its base if the perpendicular height is 14 meters? So I'm just going to draw this out. I know that the area is equal to 56 square meters. The perpendicular height is 14 meters. So what is the length of the base? I'll call that L. Or let's call that B for base. So we know that because everything is in the same units, meters, that makes it nice and easy. I don't need to convert anything. So because the formula is A equals half times base times perpendicular height, and in the question it says that the area is 56. So I'm going to replace that A with 56. And that's equal to half times the base times the perpendicular height of 14. Now half of 14 is 7. So technically we got some number times 7 is equal to 56. That number has to be 8 because 8 times 7 is 56. Therefore the base is 8 meters. Alright, I want you to pause the video, have a go at question D yourselves, and when you're ready to continue checking answers, please do. Okay, so here I'm going to draw my triangle. We know that the area is 48 square meters, and we want to know what the height is. I'm going to call that H, and the base is 0.016 kilometers. Okay, so that means because the area is in square meters, I need to work out what each of these are in meters, what the height is in meters, what the base is in meters. So I'm just going to convert 0.016 kilometers into meters. Now one trick to this in knowing whether to multiply or divide, because the units are getting smaller, this number is going to get bigger. That means we need a times. So I'm going to multiply 0.016 by 1000 because there are 1000 meters in a kilometer, which means I'm going to move the decimal point to the right 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that's 16. I'm going to replace this base with 16 meters. Okay. So we know the formula for the area triangle is half base times height. The area is 48 according to the question. We have half times the base of 16, but we don't know what the height is. We need to work that out. Well, here we've got half of 16. Half of 16 is 8. So technically we've got 8 times some number is equal to 48. That number has to be 6, because 8 times 6 is 48. And it's 6 meters. However, the question says, what is the perpendicular height of the triangle in millimeters? So now we know what the height is. All we need to do is convert 6 meters into millimeters. Well, here we've got meters to millimeters. It's getting smaller from big to small. So this number needs to get bigger. So we're going to multiply it. But we're going to multiply it by 100 to turn it into centimeters, and 10 as well to convert that into millimeters. So 6 times 100 times 10. So the answer is 6,000 millimeters. Therefore, height is 6,000 millimeters. Okay, so for homework, I want you to work on exercise 10G, questions 3 to 8, 10 and 11 on page 485 to 487, and this is due on Wednesday next week. And that's it for this video.